And, you know, Ron, yesterday was also another wonderful day of the DNC charade. And so as this is happening, I'm just, you know, watching bits and pieces of what happened at the DNC. And it's just all, I just don't know about you, but I just feel like we're stuck in this shitty timeline of these writers that decided to like screw the last ending of season 20 of America. And we're just like, they're just like, no, I don't know how to end it. We don't know how to end it. This is the shittiest plot line we could be stuck in. Bernie Sanders, the day before, going and endorsing Joe Biden in such a way, talking about how awful Trump is, not mentioning anything that the Democratic Party has done, even though they rigged the elections against him more than once.
Well, twice. I mean, this
exactly.
past. See, the way I put it, if 2020, if they tried to pitch it as a series, it wouldn't get purchased because it's just too unrealistic.
Yeah.
like even as like a dystopian comedy, they'd be like, oh, come on. No, you're telling me one guy fills up stadiums, another guy can barely put together a sentence, needs his wife to talk for him, stands for nothing, has enough skeletons in his closet that he never needs to decorate for Halloween. And they're going to screw over that guy for the other guy. And the other dude who's in power right now is going to put his own people under martial law, is going to brutalize protesters for a photo op holding a Bible. Come on. That's ridiculous. And then they're going to have a convention where they invite 4 Republicans and give a younger progressive member literally 1 minute. This is just too, come on. No one's going to buy this. This is just too unrealistic.
And then they nominate a self-described top cop as VP while young kids are fighting against police brutality. Yes. Like it just doesn't get any better than that. Like
it really doesn't. What a slap! Hey, there's historic civil unrest. We're gonna give you the cop. That's what we're gonna give you. We're giving you the cop. And there is like, man. It's almost like when they pick a VP, they want to just completely slap you in the face. Like they want to slap you in the face. Like on both, I mean, Republicans and Democrats alike. Like it's like, oh, people were celebrating in the streets because of gay marriage. I know we need a religious theocrat to be the running mate for the next Republican. That's what we need. Like, oh, people are pretty disenfranchised that the Democratic Party didn't deliver on the platform it promised, and now they're going even further to the right with a candidate who's to the right of Obama. People are disenfranchised by that. What should we do? We should get someone to the right of her. We should get someone even further right than Hillary Clinton in the Democratic Party. Let's do that. Now it's like, gee, there's historic civil unrest because of police brutality. I know, we got a cop. It's just like they're trying. It's like,
it's ridiculous. And the DNC, I mean, you know, it's like they're reciting the same script, right? They were constantly talking about saving the soul of the nation, and using the same words, every single person. I mean, I get it. Donald Trump is bad, but well, look, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is rigging elections in Florida. Hello. Oh yes, vote Democrat. We're gonna, you know, Joe Biden is gonna fix everything. And I think that's the frustration. By the way, I don't know if you noticed the count of people watching the convention. It wasn't very high.
Yeah,
people are just stunned.
I reported, like I just tweeted because I put it on the PBS, like the YouTube for PBS. Yeah. And I get it. Like one YouTube channel, of course, is not exemplary of all of life. Of course, I get that. But just for a snapshot, there were like, I think maybe 2,000 people watching.
Yeah.
And the like to dislike ratio was like 1,000 more dislikes than likes just about at the moment that I tweeted about it. And they had to disable the chat. There was no chat. You weren't allowed to chat.
Yep. Yeah. They can't handle like the public, like outbursts of anger because people are so angry. They're like, this is a show. These are a bunch of actors. We have people like Eva Longoria talking to, you know, about poor people's issues, about how we need to come together. what does she or somebody like John Kasich have to do with like working class Americans? What, like, the Congress just went on vacation. What are you talking about here? You guys are having a convention, patting yourself on the back of how much better than Republicans you are, and literally,
well, 4
Congress
Republicans are there. Well, 4 Republicans are speaking. You're telling us how you're different and better than the Republicans when you have 4 Republicans there.
Right.
I mean, that's the part they're like, oh yeah, this is our wide tent. Look at John. I mean, they said with a straight face, John Kasich, he was a Reagan Republican, and here he is with it really speaks to, you know, the Democratic Party and the wide tent. No, you know what it speaks to? John Kasich hasn't changed. He still is a Reagan Republican. The Democrats came to him. It speaks to how far right our country really is at the electoral politics level. The people aren't that way.
Yep.
The people aren't that way. But in electoral politics, we are. I mean, I don't even say it's not fair to call the Democrats a center-right party. They're a right-wing party. Calling them center-right is too freaking generous. When you compare it to the rest of the world. They're a right-wing party. So you're saying we have a right-wing party and a neo-fascist party, and at the end of the day, it's like, for the systemic change we need, not that sounds ideal, not that would make me feel better at night, the systemic change we need because the freaking climate's collapsing. I mean, these people that are like, oh, you lefties, you're just such idealists. It's like, you think we're making this shit up, that something's wrong with the climate? You think that, like what, we want the next generation to have a planet to inhabit? You think that, well, the planet's not going anywhere. We are, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you think we're just making this shit up because we feel like it, because we want ourselves to feel better? You think and somehow like this incrementalist fantasy and just having this elementary substance-based analysis on things somehow makes you an adult? Well, recognizing a systemic problem makes you somehow a child? Shouldn't it be the freaking opposite, Fee? Like, what?
Let's bring Colin Powell into the picture. Why don't we?
What are you saying? What are you saying to the world when you bring some of the architects of the Iraq War to celebrate a nominee who voted for the Iraq War, and you're supposed to be the alternative to the right? This is why most of the world hates us, ladies and gentlemen. This is why. This
is why people don't vote. One, they make you wait 8 hours to vote. They run out of ballots. They tell the youth to vote, and then the votes don't count. Then we attack the youth who are volunteering and trying to change things. We vilify them as Antifa and like all these radicals. And yet you still want them to vote for you? The Democratic Party has spent the last 5 years smearing Bernie Sanders and his supporters, yet they put photos of him propping him up as another tool to get progressives somehow to unify with Democrats, and they think that's going to do it. That's going to be it. It is ridiculous. And not only that, Ron, but I don't know if you noticed that Bernie Sanders lost delegates in California because, if you recall, that they had initially, during the Unity Reform Commission, voted to get rid of the delegates and super delegates in the first round. But because Biden won the nomination fair and square, they were able to put their super delegates in on the first round. So they voted on the first round. And that's why it shows that Bernie Sanders lost California.
Oh, my God.
People are so livid about that. A lot of my friends who are activists and organizers who work their ass off for Bernie, because Bernie won by a decent margin.
Of them. You're one of them. I mean,
thank you, but I just mean, like, these people, I mean, that I know too, that I'm sure some of them that you know have worked on the ground for the last 5 years, and they saw all the work they did by canvassing and door knocking and phone banking, and then they see that in one fell swoop, super delegates can come in and undo all of that. If that doesn't make you lose faith in the system and doesn't show you that you need radical change, I don't know what will, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, well, I didn't realize. I mean, I hadn't heard about that specifically in California. I know that he won by a big margin, despite the fact they did everything they could to prevent that from happening. Despite the fact that those machines that we used had enough red flags that it could have timed a marathon,
Yep.
And we use them anyway. And this was straight from the election committees. I mean, you guys covered it on your show. I covered it on mine. We just read the damn thing. Like, it's right there. Like here's the document. These machines, they can be hacked easily. They can be they can be bad. And the supervisor, who was a big pro Biden guy, was like, I see no problems here. Let's move forward.
Dean Logan. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there was issue after issue.
Oh, yeah.
And now, the superdelegates come in and they just undo everything. I mean, it is unbelievable. And when you look at it, it is just upholding the will of Wall Street. Because who does the most shenanigans during the primary? Democrats do. So they can stop any progressive challengers, which, by the way, not only do they need to, pretty much rig the elections, they also spent $15 million on beating progressive challengers. They spent $15 million, the Democratic establishment did. Who does all the shenanigans in the general? Republicans do. Because that way you have the person who is just overtly pro-Wall Street instead of the person who is subtly pro-Wall Street. Because when you're subtly just pro-Wall Street, occasionally you need to throw the people a couple scraps. Exactly. And that's how the system continues. And, it's very hard when you have that message of, it's the system as a whole. It's not Republican versus Democrat as much as it's us versus the oligarchy. And the system as a whole is what desperately needs to change. And, because people want to entertain this idea, because a lot of people don't pay attention to the general. So when they just see Republicans doing this stuff, they think it's just Republicans who do it. So it's like, if a Democrat's there, it's fine. And I think slowly but surely more people are waking up to the system as a whole. Yeah. But that needs to amplify.
And from what I've seen, Ron, Florida, being in Florida, I'm from Central Florida, and I will be going back there too. And I don't see Biden winning Florida. And, all polls are pointing to Biden winning this election. And Trump has done a shitty job regarding the pandemic, and we all know that. But I'm looking at swing states, looking at states like Florida, states like Wisconsin, where I'm getting information that there is not support for Joe Biden at all, that it's going to go red. When we're looking at these swing states and we see them possibly going red, like that no matter what your little poll says, that's indicative that Joe Biden doesn't have this under the bag. And I think the establishment is so overly confident and arrogant that they think that their little charade of a convention is going to be enough. But it's not, because people are fed up with the system. And I think some people are so angry that it's pushing them away from the Democratic Party into the Republican Party. And that's really dangerous, because obviously we don't want to push people towards further to the right. But at the same time, the Democrats are sort of doing that to people. They're pissing them off. I know at least 5 people who are like, well, I'm going to vote for Trump because fuck the Democrats. Right. And this is like,
uh-oh, did you freeze on me? Oh, no, there you are. Fee, can you think of a time where this has happened before? I feel like everything you just said sounds eerily familiar, but I can't put my thumb on it. I feel like we just did this 4 years ago. And I'm with you 100%. And I think that you're seeing the exact same thing happen, because this is an institution. I mean, I'm sorry, the Democrats' first priority is not winning.
No.
Their first priority is making sure the donors are happy. And if they can do that, and then second priority, beat a Republican or two, great. If they can't, well, that's okay, because the gravy train keeps rolling.
Right.
They are pissing people off. And I think for some people, they're pissing them off to the point that they will turn to the Republicans. Other people, they're pissing them off to the point where they want a solution completely outside of electoral politics, which I think is a good thing, because I think direct action is where it's at anyway.
Absolutely.
But, I think that the other big component here, too, though, is that, if Trump gets reelected, I don't see the Nancy Pelosi's of the world feeling all that bad, because they're going to be able to see are dollar signs. Yeah. And I hope Nancy loses in November. I really, obviously I'm rooting for Shahid Buttar, but if she doesn't, and if she's still around, they're just seeing dollar signs because the fundraising is going to go up if Trump gets reelected, because people are going to, because Trump is horrible. I mean, it's absolutely, it is beyond nauseating that Trump is the president. It's disgusting beyond comprehension. And that gravy train is just going to keep rolling, and so it's really, I mean, we need a new party. We just desperately need a viable option.
Our power isn't in the electorate right now.
No.
Even we see that members of the squad oftentimes have to capitulate to the establishment because they have no power. That it's just the same thing. Nancy Pelosi is the gatekeeper of progressives, and trying to defeat her is going to be tough. I mean, I also am supportive of Shahid Buttar, but at the same time, it's a very uphill battle getting her out of office, and people are already trying to figure out who they want to replace her because they know that she could just have someone replace her if she wanted to. And we don't have a fair election system. We don't have a fair shake at getting some progressives in there when the whole system is corrupt as a whole. So for me, it's kind of I support what people are trying to do at a local level within the Democratic Party, like at a city level and stuff. And I support them, and I'm empathetic of it. But at the same time, if we don't build outside, working outside the party with new parties or whatever it is you want to do, and if we don't have direct actions, like whether it's a general strike or whether it's more protests, because
it's got to be both.
Of a pandemic, it's got to be both. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we need a general strike. I'm hoping that September 1st really happens. I mean, they're saying September 1st is going to be the day. I'm all for it. I've made it clear. I'm like, hey, because, the strike doesn't apply to people like me or people like you. It's our job to be a communication vehicle. And I'm like, I'm here. Let me know what you need. I am here. The microphone is here. I got this big foam freaking ball keeping me company. I got a black cat over there, and I'm ready. Like, let me know what I can do as a communication vehicle. But we freaking need a general strike. We need a rent strike. We need the protests to continue. We need to, cross-pollinate with one another. It sounded weird for a second, but you know what I mean? Like, we need to... Movements need to cross-pollinate with one another. All of that stuff needs to happen. And we need to build something outside on the electoral level. We need to build something outside of the Democratic Party. It just needs to happen at this point. And let me ask you this, because this is like one silver lining. I actually think if the election were held right now, this minute, Trump would win re-election. I don't see Trump losing. And I'm careful with my words here. I refuse to say the words Joe Biden wins, because that would imply this is actually an election between two people. It's not. Right. This election is Donald Trump versus Donald Trump. The only way Donald Trump is not president again is if he beats himself, which he might be able to do. Because of the pandemic, he might be able to do that. If there was no pandemic, there'd be no question Trump's winning again. But because of the pandemic, he might beat himself. And Biden, Lauren Ashcraft said this on the show, and I think she put it perfectly. Talk about failing up to monumental proportions. I mean, Joe Biden, who a 40-year blank suit career, being on the wrong side of nearly everything. You can find footage of this guy. He's a segregationist. He was for the Iraq War. He wrote the crime bill. He was for the Patriot Act. He was for a border wall. Yes, he was. You can find that video. He has said racist things throughout his entire career. He's not convinced on basically any progressive issue. He's against the Green New Deal. He's against Medicare for all. The list goes on and on. This guy might fail up. He was never all that popular. He was given an olive branch by Barack Obama. He was just goofy vice president who did nothing other than make a friendship bracelet. He might fail his way into the presidency. And by the way, everything I just said totally applies for Donald Trump in a different way. General, failed business after failed business after failed business. Oh, and guess what? He even failed his way into the presidency because due to our awesome, awesome system, he got less freaking votes, but still won the election. So riddle me that, Batman. So, you have this like unpopularity contest once again of people failing up. And I think if the election were held tonight, I think Donald Trump would win re-election. But things change any given week because of the uncertainty of our times. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to